And welcome to another informative and, yes, exciting episode of The Harvest. Today, I have Mr. Nick Jain joining me, CEO of IdeaScale. Nick, welcome. Very excited to learn more about you and all the innovations you have going on at IdeaScale.
Thank you so much for having me, Carmel.
Excited to jump straight into perhaps a bit of your background, just for our viewers and audience. Tell us more about who you are and what's currently keeping you on the edge of your seat.
Perfect. So my name's Nick. I am based in Philadelphia, but over my life, I've lived in India, Canada, and the United States. Studied math and physics in college, did my MBA at Harvard Business School. And over the first half of my career, I spent in Wall Street as a professional investor doing large private equity and hedge fund deals. And then for the last 4 or 5 years, somehow I've ended up in the very peculiar role of professional CEO, where I have been CEO or co-CEO of several companies, including a $100 million revenue trucking company and a small, like $2 million revenue men's shoe startup. And for the past 2 years, I've had the privilege and honor of being CEO of IdeaScale, which is a B2B SaaS company that is the largest provider of innovation software in the world.
Very interesting and diverse for sure. Excited to dive more into those variations of your background. But as a start, from mathematics at Dartmouth to leading IdeaScale, what sparked the journey into, the world of innovation software?
Sure. So there's two things. In college, I knew that I really loved thinking about things mathematically, and I really liked the idea of creating value through things, whether it be inventing or running companies. And I'm a competitive guy. So you combine all of those facets and you kind of end up ideally trying to run a company someday or go to Wall Street. I've over the past 10 years, I've done both. For innovation software, it's kind of a fortuitous mix of a few different circumstances. Number one is somebody gave me a call and said, "Hey, Nick, do you want to be CEO of this really cool software company?" When you get that call in your career, it's very hard to say no, right? It's just such a cool career opportunity. But secondly, something I really like about IdeaScale specifically is throughout my career, one of the things that's always frustrated me and I've always wished was a better in every place that I worked is, why is it that the senior person's ideas or voice matter so much more if they're not always the smartest person in the room? Why isn't it the idea meritocracy? Best ideas, whether they're from someone who's on the other side of the world, may not speak broken English, whether they're junior, senior, why isn't it the best ideas win? And the fact that that is literally what IdeaScale software does, it helps make the best idea win, not the senior most person's idea or the person with the loudest voice, ended up just being such a perfect fit because I've always wanted that throughout my career. And that's, I have the privilege of being in a company that's our product.
Definitely interesting. And talk to us about the platform itself. How are these ideas captured? How do you ensure that, someone on the very bottom's tier of a company or an organization is being recognized regardless of where they are just because of your product?
Sure. So there's lots of different configurations and ways you can set it up, who accesses the software, but I'll use a really practical example from how we use our own software. So we make a software product and there's all sorts of new features and bells and whistles that we can add over time. How do you figure out what you should be adding? So we've created an IdeaScale community at ideas.ideascale.com, and anyone in the world, whether you're a customer, whether you're a prospect, you're a random kid off the street, an employee in the marketing department, in the engineering department, you can suggest ideas. You can just go into ideas.ideascale.com and say, "Hey, I have an idea for this new feature you should build, or how you can make this feature look better." And then other people can upvote or downvote this ideas. And you can do this totally anonymously, by the way. So I've submitted some ideas actually with my name, and I've actually submitted some ideas anonymously because I don't want people to know that it's associated with me. And so if you are, scared of putting your name out, you can make it anonymous. Otherwise, you can put your name out there. Other people vote the ideas up and down, and everyone can see what the coolest ideas are. And the best ideas float to the top because they're the most upvoted ideas, kind of like a Reddit or Facebook post. And then those are the ideas that hopefully the senior people in the company actually commit to doing and turning into reality, which, by the way, we do. Our most upvoted ideas are literally moved to the front of our product roadmap. That's what we care about doing immediately, quickly.
Excellent. Obviously, vetting it, making sure that there's viability across multiple.
Yeah, there's all sorts of fancy features you can add to figure out whether the idea is actually viable. Because somebody,
right.
we run a demo community for Tesla. Somebody suggests making infinite energy battery, which is obviously violates the laws of physics. So there are fancy ways where you can exclude ideas that are impossible or financially impractical or may violate the laws and regulations. I was simplifying it down to just the basic idea, but yes, there's all sorts of filters you can do to get rid of, stupid ideas.
Perhaps, yeah, and those that just need to be benched for a little while because technology and the world moves so quickly. Who knows? In a couple of years, it may be totally viable. I heard you say Tesla, and so that just jumps into my next question. You've got quite a diverse collaboration with a variety of companies, and I see it's from NASA and then organizations like Doctors Without Borders. That's so diverse. How do you tailor your approach to meet these innovation needs for the variety of companies?
Sure. So yeah, we've been around about 15 years. So this is not a startup, but a well-established company in 7 countries. And we have the, again, privilege of working with, organizations like Doctors Without Borders, Comcast, Pfizer, lots of really large, complex, the TSA, if anybody who flies a plane deal or goes through an airport, deals with the TSA, the post office, lots of these cool organizations. They actually, it turns out, there's a very consistent problem across all large complex organizations, which is a large complex organization is set up to do one thing really well. Think of it like a factory. A factory can be churning out donuts or socks or shoes, and it does that one thing really well. But when it tries to change, it's really hard to change a complex factory or innovate, right, or a complex organization. So it turns out whether you're Doctors Without Borders, Transportation Safety Authority, Comcast, NASA, all these organizations, they're large complex organizations, and they have difficulty innovating. And turns out the process changes, the technology changes, the culture changes they need are actually pretty similar. So it's actually very cool that basically our same software can apply to all of these companies because they're really struggling with the same problem at its essence.
Totally agree. And that's, I believe, primarily within the mid-market to enterprise-sized organizations, correct? They're just not as nimble, not as agile. And so there's a lot of heavy lifting, or that's the perception at least, to implement new innovations. So IdeaScale sounds like it's absolutely bridging a gap. Can you share anything surprising in terms of innovation, something unexpected that may have popped up as the emergence of using IdeaScale's platform?
One of the things that's really surprising to me, and I see this both in our own internal use as well as in some of our customers' use cases, is that you get ideas from really strange sources that you would not expect, right? Like a marketing person who may have been an engineer at some point, but you have no idea because they're in your marketing department. They suggest a really cool, like, algorithmic change that your engineers or computer scientists may care about, or an engineer who has one of my engineers has a passion for playing guitar, and he made a comment on like the way like audio should come out on our software that you would never think about. So you get ideas from very peculiar places that you would not expect, and some really cool and good ideas.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think everyone's really entering into a much more multifaceted approach to living their lives. And that comes with the gig economy. It comes with people just getting more time, work-life balance, etc., to do more of the things that they enjoy, and then giving themselves this multifaceted background. As you've mentioned, the musician, but he's actually an engineer, or the marketer that's actually a tech fundi deep down. It's amazing. And I think that giving people that opportunity just helps them explore even more about themselves, and of course helps the company. Your background in mathematics, how do you see it having influenced your approach to innovation, or leading a tech company?
So I don't think it changes my approach to innovation, but it does change the approach of how I run a technology company, or a trucking company for that matter. And it teaches you to be incredibly rigorous in your thinking and decision making. So it's not just like I'm going to go for a jog because I feel like it today. It's like I'm going to go for a jog because jogging 3 miles a day will extend my lifespan by so much, and you build very concrete, logic-based decisions. And that really matters when you're running a company, because you may have hundreds of people whose jobs, their families, housing, their kids' ability to go to school depend on you. So you have to be very careful that you're making a decision not because you woke up grumpy one day or you're excited about your pet project, but rather because it's the right decision. And that right decision is arrived at logically and quantitatively. So, if you were to ever talk to anyone around IdeaScale, I think, for better or worse, they would say like decisions that Nick makes and that IdeaScale makes are very thoughtful, rigorously analyzed decisions, and never made just based on how someone feels or an emotional decision. It's rational, and we try and do the right thing every day.
Excellent, which leads me to the enjoyment that you have for poker playing. It sounds like there are parallels fusing in here. So why don't you talk to us about how you do infuse your poker strategies, if at all, to your business sense and the way you operate your company?
Sure. So poker brought through. I was playing poker semi-professionally and I couldn't was making enough that I could theoretically make it a full-time job. And it hit like three parts of my brain and personality that like really worked well. Number one, poker's game. There's a lot of math in there. If you want to be good at poker, all the elite players have spend a lot of time doing math. Number two, it is competitive, right? I'm a competitor in almost every aspect of life, so it hits that competitive adrenaline rush. And number three, poker is something teaches you that every decision, no matter how thoughtful a decision is, it has risk. Think of it like crossing the street. You may have looked both ways, you may have done everything right, and there's still a chance that a car is coming. And poker forces you to confront that reality. And that's true in business as well. When you're making a decision, you may have done everything right, and you may have thought it through, you may have done all the math analysis, you have this perfect strategic plan, and then something strange happens on the other side of the world that there was no way to predict, and you just have to manage against that risk. And so like I enjoyed poker because it hit those three aspects of the way my brain works, but then it is actually very applicable to running a business, because a business, you do want to be competitive. You want to go out there and be competitive and win. If you're not competitive when you're running a business, you're going to be outcompeted to someone else out there who's hungrier than you. Number two, you have to think mathematically and logically about the business decisions, because at the end of the day, a business needs to make money, and otherwise it can't reinvest into future growth, future products, future customers. And then finally, anyone who's running a business has to be very cognizant of the fact that they could be wrong. When we run a marketing campaign, we think it's going to work, but hey, there might be anywhere from a 10 to 99% chance that we fail. If we fail, does it blow up the company? Hopefully not, and definitely not at IdeaScale. In fact, we run a lot of experiments where we know, hey, we're going to fail half the time, but that's okay, because the half of the time that we do win, it's a home run success for us.
Interesting. You mentioned investment and that you have a part of that in your background on Wall Street. Talk to us about that. And do you still actively invest? Any ideas or plans to take IdeaScale into the public world? Speak to us more about that side of the business.
Sure. Yeah. So for the first half of my career, I was a private equity and hedge fund investor at some of the larger firms in the world, Bain Capital, Greenlight, et cetera. And there, my job was really to go identify potential investments that could be new stock, a new company, entire portion of a company that we should buy, and then hopefully several years later sell for more money and make money for our investors. Very similar skill set. You're doing a lot of analysis. You're doing a lot of thinking of how business works. That applies to IdeaScale because when you're leading a company, any senior role, you are thinking about the notion of what's called capital compounding. If I spend $1 today, do I get more than roughly $1.50 out? Because if you're not making 50 cents profit over the long run, you don't have money to give your employees raises. You don't have money to put back into the company to make a better product for your customers. So that same analytical approach very much applied in investing, very much applies at IdeaScale, and most of the thoughtful executives at well-run companies are applying that capital compounding approach. I no longer invest professionally, because if you want to do something well, you have to dedicate a lot of time to it. And I know if I was to go invest into the stock market today, I'm only going to be doing so with a couple hours a week, and I'm going to be competing against people who are doing so 100 hours a week. And you never want to be in a spot. It's like showing up to a fight where you've got a knife and the other person has a platoon of tanks. It's a bad decision. If I go on Wall Street right now, I'll lose unless I make it my full-time job. And so, no, all my money is invested in passive investments that are, robo advisors, basically. And then finally, about taking IdeaScale public. So I don't own the company. I report to a board. IdeaScale today is a little too small to go public, but I think our market is really exciting, and innovation software is a really exciting space that if we continue to grow, that could certainly be in our future. Obviously, that's not my decision to make. That is my boards and investors.
For sure. Nick Jain, the all or nothing kind of guy is what I'm getting from the conversation so far. And to your point, dedication, commitment is definitely needed to succeed at basically anything that you want to be successful at. Let's talk about challenges. On that note, challenges that you foresee or have experienced in maintaining IdeaScale's position as perhaps the innovation software leader.
Sure. There's a few things I'll say. Number one is the technology market has kind of been behaving very weirdly for the last like 5 or 10 years, where there was a lot of venture capital flowing into the industry, and you could if you call yourself a tech company, you could start up a tech company for anything, and people would throw money at you. What that's meant is there's a lot of companies that aren't as thoughtful about their product or about their business as there should be. So there's a lot of, the term is zombie companies running around. And that creates really weird dynamics in a market. When I'm out there trying to sell a product, employ my employees and create value, there may be somebody selling like a fake product out there, right? So you end up with a very weird dynamic until eventually those companies exit the space, and you have these strong players with a good product left. So we're still dealing with that, as are a lot of sub markets within technology. It's not just us. There's a lot of tech companies out there that are probably shouldn't be doing what they're doing. That's challenge number one. Number two is this is something we really struggle with at IdeaScale almost every day, is how do we deliver a really high quality product but that doesn't have too many features. So customers are always asking you, can you add this feature? Can you add that feature? But then you create with like bloatware. You don't want a software that has 8,000 switches for everything, right? So you have to figure out a very delicate way to say no to a customer that's, paying that they're paying you money, but you still have to say no to them because that's not the right decision overall for the piece of software or for the other 1,000 customers, and may not even be the right decision for the customer. They're thinking about today but they're not thinking about their own broader need, which is why we try and think about it further. There's that delicate balance. I think those are the two big challenges that we think about, right, from a market perspective or from a product perspective. We're blessed to be doing well in other areas of our business.
I can absolutely relate to that. In a previous role as VP of customer success, there was a constant challenge where, customers and all of them want something different. That's the most important thing for them. While we're trying to make sure we're aligning the data, like what's the most sought after new addition, right? The new iteration to anything. And that was a constant challenge because what would happen is my CEO wants, bit of a people pleaser to some degree, and he just believed it was a good idea. Let's get it in there. And we're like, no, too many buttons, too many things happening. Let's talk about your top graduate accolade, we could call it, from the Harvard Business School. How do you use, or firstly, what would you identify as one of the most valuable lessons you've taken from that educational period, and then how have you applied that to being a CEO?
Sure. So I think one of the good things about going to a business school or getting an MBA is it teaches you that there's many different parts of a business. So when I showed up at business school, I think I was really good at a couple of things. I was really good at the finance side of things. I was pretty good at the strategy of a business, but I knew nothing about marketing. I didn't know anything about HR. I didn't know anything about operations. There's all these portions of a business. And if any one of them fail, think of it like an organ in your body fail. You may have the greatest heart in the world, but if your lungs aren't working, you're not in a great place as a human being. A company is the same way. And I think business school did a really good job. At HBS, they force you to take, your first year, they force you to take one of each course. So you have to learn about each different part of a business. And I actually tried to continue that in my more discretionary years, where I said, okay, I'm not just going to become the finance guy or the marketing guy. I'm going to try and do a little bit of everything. And sitting where I do today, I think that's really valuable because I've gained an appreciation that all of these organs need to work together. And number two, how do you actually what does a good functioning HR department look like, and versus a bad functioning department? Because at business school they showed us good examples and bad examples, and it's really important to be able to discriminate between what is a good example of a department and a bad example. Because if you can't, then you will not be able to realize, hey, my HR department or my finance department is not working well. You can't see it. If you can't see it, you can't fix it.
Excellent. Definitely a lot of value in education, multiple ways of getting that. So speak to us about how you balance your personal time with your professional life. Work-life balance is something that a lot of people are championing. It sounds like you're super competitive. It's all or nothing for Nick. How does Nick stay healthy and somewhat balanced?
So I wake up insanely early. I'm up around 5:45 every morning. I go out for a run with a running club. Then do my day of work. I'm trying to take some continuing education courses because there's all this new technology out there. So I'm actually trying to, take a bunch of online courses and stuff to continue to catch up. I'm married. I've got 2 cats and a house to maintain. And the big thing news about me so far that's all balanced, right? I'm able to work out, eat healthy, do work, get a little bit of time to play poker or my other activities. The thing that's going to screw up my life is I'm about to have my first kid in 2 months. And so my current office, which I'm sitting in today, will become the nursery. And as a first-time father, I'm terrified because that is going to definitely break the balance in my life for some period of time. So I'm balanced right now, but at some point, if you're, trying to do everything in life, which, I do want it all in life, at some point that will break, and hopefully I will recover with grace from that break. That'll happen in a few months.
Fantastic, and congratulations. Absolutely. Your world is about to be shaken up like you've never experienced before. I have an 8-year-old girl at the moment, so it's really a mind-blowing change to your life, especially someone that's A, personality A type, and hardworking. But let me say this, you can have it all, just not at the same time, right? And you it's wonderful. So good luck, enjoy, congratulations. It's a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Looking ahead, and this will be our final close for the conversation, what is your vision for IdeaScale? How do you maintain global innovation and also your hopeful lead in the space going forward?
Sure. I think that there's two important things that are happening in our space. Number one is more and more companies are realizing, or not just companies, public and government agencies as well, are realizing that innovation is something they actually need to do. And that they are not doing well. And it's a lot of organizations are creating innovation departments or chief innovation officers. That's number one. But a lot of organizations have realized, hey, just like marketing is a function or finance is a function, innovation needs to be something we're good at. So that's obviously a tailwind that helps everyone in my industry. For us specifically, we've realized there's a whole bunch of things that innovation departments need, and we do a couple of those things really well, and we don't do the other things yet. And so the big change, and this will be actually announced in a couple weeks, so I'll give a teaser for it, but we're actually announcing a pretty cool product roadmap that says, okay, we've done these 2 things really well for you. We're best in class. We're going to actually do these other 4 things as well. And we think we can be your total innovation operating system, give you everything you need from a software perspective to have a world-class innovation department. And then finally, the one thing that we are always doing separate from kind of those 2 elements is we are really proud at IdeaScale that we invest an insane amount of time, effort, money into making a high quality product. The quote that people always hear me at IdeaScale say is, I don't want to be selling a low quality product. So we are really constantly investing a lot of effort into making things a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier to use, fewer bugs. 70% of my staff is in engineering and product. So we're really focused on the product side of things because that's really important to us, because that's the value we're ultimately delivering to our customers.
Wonderful. Who would you say is your ideal customer?
Our ideal customer is, and you alluded to it literally earlier, that it's a mid or large scale organization, right? For small scale organization, you shouldn't pay for us. We actually give our software away for free for if you're below 100 people, so you can sign up for free. But our software is really useful for any large organization in any sector. Once you're probably after about 500 or 1,000 people, you should be using some form of software like ours. Because there's a real problem your people are having in communicating, and good ideas are being missed. And good ideas are the most valuable resources any organization has. So our ideal customer is whether you're located in China, whether you're a government entity in Australia, whether you're a pharmaceutical company in the United States, an oil company in Europe. If you're large and complex, you definitely need something like us. And we would love to have you as our customer, obviously.
Wonderful. Tell us where we can find more information. Should we be interested?
Sure. Should you be interested, you can learn more about us at our website, which is www.ideascale.com. We're all over social media on LinkedIn as well with IdeaScale. In addition, if you want to contact me, I'm available on LinkedIn, Nick Jain. I respond to 100% of my LinkedIn messages. Or you can email me personally at nick.jain@ideascale.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick Jain. Fantastic conversation. We look forward to seeing more of the innovations unfolding with IdeaScale. I'm Carmel Fisher, and you're listening to The Harvest.
Thank you so much, Carmel.
That's it for The Harvest, available anywhere you find podcasts. Stay tuned for more.